Hello everyone, I am back. This is Full Metal Gamer, a place where we discuss all things heavy metal and video games. Where have I been? Well, I put it in like 2 videos ago. I had a crazy work schedule and I just could not find time to do the channel. But I'm off that work schedule and now I'm back doing videos with all of you. So if you're new to my channel, what is this channel all about? Well, we're all about heavy metal video games. Be sure to follow on YouTube, subscribe, and on TikTok. Follow me. Full Metal G Reactions is on TikTok. Um, I do like hot takes and stuff on TikTok. I've had a couple videos get some attention, so it's whatever. Um, so I'm here doing a video, and I thought, why not start by getting into a spicy conversation? Um, so I'm going to talk about what the article is, and then I'm going to talk about some specific examples that I have had encountered with this recently, and then we'll go from there. So this topic is about backing tracks. So this, by the way, comes from Metal Injection. Backing tracks at live shows causes a stir after Falling in Reverse cancels their show due to missing laptops. So, if you haven't heard about this story, Falling in Reverse, Ronnie Radke came out and announced that he was going to have to cancel a show because their laptops did not make it to the venue. And so apparently their laptops had backing tracks to some of their songs, and they just said that they couldn't perform because they didn't have those backing tracks. So we're gonna go to my thoughts and everything at the very, when we laid out all the facts here. Then we'll get into specific examples and what I think. So the article goes to say that backing tracks have caused quite a stir on the internet a few times this year. Kiss was accused of lip syncing live, and as was James LaBrie of Dream Theater, which, me personally, lip syncing is different than backing tracks because lip syncing, the person who's singing is actually present. So that's kind of different. Backing tracks is more like if a person isn't present and they still want to have those instruments or whatever performed. So kind of different. I just want to throw that out there. But anyway, so all this started getting attention after Eddie Trunk apparently was talking about this on his show. And then there was a back and forth on Twitter between Sebastian Bach of Skid Row and Ronnie Radke. And then I guess other people jumped in as well. But apparently it was just a big shit show. Anyway, Ronnie Radke since then has apologized for canceling the show. And he says what he says. But Eddie Trunk apparently was saying, he was quoted as to saying, if you need a laptop to perform, you are not a band. And of course, then that got everything stirred up. And then of course, Sebastian Bach and then Jason Richardson of All That Remains chimed in. And so some of the tweets that was said was, Ronnie Radke says Eddie Trunk introducing Sebastian Bach using tracks. Both idiots talking shit about me using tracks can't make this shit up. And then Sebastian Bach says, wow, dummy, are you trying to say that you believe that I use tracks on stage? And he says, Eddie Trunk, how fucking funny is this? And so then other people start jumping in. But then here's a point that Sebastian Bach makes that I actually agree with him to a certain degree, and here's what he says. So Ronnie Radke says at Sebastian Bach and Eddie Trunk, he goes, and any other literal clown, I guess Queen isn't real rock since in 1986 they used full tracks to play Bohemian Rhapsody and walked off the stage. Then Sebastian Bach replies, laptops were not invented in 1986, though. You realize that laptops didn't come around till like 1997. So then, how did Queen get on the stage if laptops were not invented? Don't they have to cancel the show? How did this clip happen? And without laptops, isn't that impossible? So I think the point that is being made here is that back in the day, you didn't need laptops to perform a show or your set. So that's where that was going there. So then Ronnie Radke and Jason Richardson then bring up this point. Um, Ronnie Radke then tweeted at Eddie Trunk. He goes, "Just hired this entire orchestra, bought their flights, hotel, food, 4 buses, so they can play the 35-second intro of Voices in My Head so Eddie Trunk can respect us on his podcast that has less listeners than the people in this picture." So, some spicy words being said there by Ronnie Radke. And then Jason Richardson from All That Remains then chimes in and says, "Same. I'm going to start bringing all these people on tour too, just so that it's all live. Plus, Taiko Ensemble, 200-person choir, multiple synth players, all the crew to maintain these instruments so ignorant boomers can think I play live. Or I could just bring a fucking laptop." So there's a point. And the point being is like, and this goes, so now I'm done with the tweets. So here's what my thoughts are about this. Both sides bring up interesting points, but at the same time, I think that both sides are handling this wrong all at the same time. There is truth in what both are saying. But I think, of course, when you have truth on both sides, that means the real truth is somewhere in the middle. So I'm gonna bring up my own examples to side with Ronnie Radke and Jason Richardson here. So I have really good friends in a band called Throne of Iron. Literally, this singer, the guitar who founded it, lives across the road from me. So they do not have a bass player. They're a 3-piece drummer, 2 guitarists, and then one guitarist. He does the vocals. When they play live, they have a bass backing track that gets played over the PA, and then the drummer has a click track that plays to the bass track. So, they play to the click track. They have the bass over in the overheads. It sounds like a bass player's there. It literally sounds like one's there, but there's not one on stage. So then the band plays to it. And also it helps them keep in time. So it's actually kind of, better for everyone because the band's playing better because, they're playing in time. So there's that argument. So then at the last show they played, and this not just happens the last show they played, but this happened. I know for a fact that they get this a lot. But people keep asking why they don't have a bass player. Why don't you have a bass player? I'll play bass for you. Blah blah blah. I've actually been asked. People have came up to me and asked me why they don't have a bass player, or they've asked me why I haven't played bass for them. And I tell them, I say, because they don't want one. They don't want a bass player. For the reasons that Ronnie Radke and Jason Richardson just stated. That's one less flight to book. That's one less person in a hotel room or in a van. That's one less person they have to provide food for. If they can do it with a laptop or however the band decides to do it, then why not? Do you really need to look at that bass player? And I also made the joke, and I got quite a good reception of this on Facebook. I said, no one cares about the bass player until you don't see one on stage. Think about that for a second. No one cares about a bass player until you don't see one. So think about that, and I'm going to move on. At the very same time that this was getting brought up again with why they don't have a bass player, there was a band from Florida called Seven Kingdoms, and they don't have a bass player either. I've actually seen them live at Mad with Power. They are amazing. They are great. No bass player. They have backing tracks. When they play live, it sounds like they have a bass player. So, and people were calling them not a band, and they said that there was one person that was particularly giving them shit for not having a bass player, and was just insulting them left and right any chance they could. And of course, it just makes you think that there's people out there that have this mentality, have this mindset that everything always has to be old school. Like you can't do things to innovate. Like it even goes as far as being like what amps you use on stage. Like unless you have a full stack Marshall, you aren't a real band. Or if you have an Axe Effects that plugs straight into the house PA, then you aren't a real band. It's like shut up. It's not about the amps. It's about the band and what they do. So there's that. So now let's jump to the other side of the argument. I think Ronnie Radke made a mistake by, or not just him, but the band. I think that the fact that they couldn't perform because they didn't have backing tracks and no backup or a backup to a backup is crazy to me. You are as big of a band as they are and you don't have multiple ways to pull off your set, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, and this is my thought, but if a 35-second intro is going to cause you to cancel a show, then I don't really understand why couldn't you just scrap it? Come up with a different idea. You know, no one's going to be pissed off if you don't come out with a 35-second intro. Now, I understand that there's probably more than just that 35-second intro, so I'm going to be aware. I'm going to put that out there. I'm aware. But don't you think that even just going out there with your guitars or whatever and just old schooling it, I guess you would call it old schooling it, but just get out there, just do with what you got. I don't think anyone would have been upset with that. And if they are, fuck them. That's the way I see it. Is like if people are going to have an issue with this, then they have the problem, not you. You still went out and performed. So I'm kind of with Sebastian Bach on this one in A Trunk that bands since the rock bands, they used to just get out on stage and just rock. Why couldn't they have just done with what they had? So I don't know. I understand that they want they were wanting perfection. They want to be the best that they can be, and if the backing tracks helps with their show, then sure. But to cancel the show, I think that was me personally, I believe that was the wrong move, and they should have came up with something else, and they should have made sure that they had a backing, some sort of backup or a backup to a backup. Why was all the backups in the same spot? It could be something as simple as a USB drive that the drummer carries, or the USB drive that Ronnie himself carries. So there's that. And that's what I'm going to say about that. So at the very end, my personal opinion as a whole, to summarize all this, is that I think backing tracks are great, and I think that they are useful, and I don't see a problem with using them. What I do have a problem with is bands who are not prepared, or they have backups to backups to backups to backups, especially when your whole set is it's detrimental to have this to even perform. Then they screwed up. They screwed up. So if Ronnie can't understand that can be criticized, then he needs to work on that. But for Eddie Trunk and Sebastian to go too far and be like, you aren't a band if you use backing tracks, well then fuck you. You are gatekeeping. You're being old man shaking fist at the sky kind of deal with that. So anyway, I hope that there's a lesson to be learned, and people, change your mindset when it comes to certain things. Don't be so stuck in the past about certain things. I if you go to see a band and they don't have a bass player on stage, don't let that be your don't let your first reaction to be is like, why don't they have a bass player? Because you know there's obviously a reason, and don't assume that you can also be their bass player too. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this spicy topic. Let me know what you think about it down below. I am really curious. Tell me if you agree with me or if you don't disagree. I want to know. And yeah, let's get back into Full Metal Gamer. I'm excited. I am ready for this. Um, so have a good night, everyone. Have a safe week. I'll be talking to you very, very soon. Always remember, long live heavy metal.